You're scrolling through endless feeds right now, aren't you? Watching others live the life you think you deserve. You're smart, probably smarter than most people you know. You have potential, real potential, and yet here you are, still waiting for your moment. Let me ask you something that might sting. What if your moment already came and went? What if you missed it because you were too busy thinking about your greatness instead of creating it? But don't close this video yet, because unlike the sugar-coated nonsense flooding your algorithm, I'm going to tell you something real today. Jacques Lacan, one of the most profound and misunderstood psychoanalysts of the 20th century, understood something crucial about men like you and me. He saw how we can become trapped in an endless cycle of desire, always wanting, never having, and ultimately sabotaging ourselves. This isn't another hustle harder lecture. This isn't about vision boards or morning routines. This is about the psychological prison you've built for yourself while thinking you're the only free-thinking man in a world of sheep. By the end of this video, you'll understand the dangerous trap that's keeping you stagnant, and more importantly, how Lacan's insights can help you break free from it. Not tomorrow. Not when your time comes, but today. So put your phone on Do Not Disturb. This deserves your full attention. And if something I say makes you uncomfortable or angry, good. That's how you know it's working. Let's be brutally honest. You're not where you want to be. You've convinced yourself it's because society doesn't appreciate your intellect, or because you're waiting for that perfect opportunity. You've created a narrative where you're the misunderstood genius, the protagonist in waiting. Lacan would call this an imaginary identification, a fiction you've constructed to protect yourself from confronting reality. It's comfortable there, isn't it? Being the unrecognized genius means never having to prove yourself. Lacan's concept of desire centers on one crucial insight. We don't desire objects. We desire being desired. You don't actually want success as much as you want others to see you as successful. You don't want wisdom as much as you want to be recognized as wise. And therein lies the trap. Because when you're caught in this cycle, you're not pursuing actual achievement, you're pursuing others' recognition of your achievement. And that's a game you can never win. Before we dive deeper, let's take a moment to understand who Jacques Lacan was. Born in Paris in 1901, Lacan wasn't just any psychoanalyst. He was a revolutionary thinker who transformed our understanding of the human psyche. Unlike the self-help gurus filling your YouTube recommendations, Lacan wasn't interested in selling you comfort. He wanted to expose the uncomfortable truths about how our minds work, how desire functions, and why we often sabotage our own happiness. He studied medicine and specialized in psychiatry, but his thinking transcended clinical practice. He integrated linguistics, philosophy, mathematics, and even topology into his understanding of the human condition. What makes Lacan particularly relevant to men like you is his unflinching analysis of how our identities are constructed, not from within, but through our relationships with language, others, and society. His insights cut through the illusion of the autonomous self that modern individualism tries to sell us. Lacan introduced the concept of the mirror stage, the moment when a child first recognizes themselves in a mirror. This recognition creates both identification and alienation. The child thinks, "That's me," but also realizes, "I am an object that can be viewed from the outside." This duality haunts us into adulthood. We're constantly oscillating between who we think we are and how we appear to others. You think you're special, unique in your intelligence and potential. But this very belief has become your prison. You've constructed an ideal image of yourself that's so perfect, so grand, that actual reality can never match it. So instead of taking action, you wait, and wait, and wait some more. But here's what Lacan would tell you. This perfect image doesn't exist. It never did. It's what he calls the objet petit a, the unattainable object of desire that keeps you forever chasing, forever unsatisfied. Think about it. No matter what you achieve, it never feels like enough. That promotion, that degree, that relationship, once obtained, the satisfaction quickly fades and you're left wanting more. This is the essence of desire in Lacanian terms. It can never be satisfied because what you're really chasing isn't the object itself but the fantasy of wholeness it promises. There's a particular danger for men who pride themselves on their intellect. You consume philosophy, psychology, political theory. You understand concepts that most people never even encounter. And there's value in that, certainly. But Lacan would point out something crucial. Knowledge itself can become a defense mechanism. A way to keep reality at arm's length by analyzing it rather than experiencing it. You read about Nietzsche's will to power, but are you exercising your own will in the world? You understand Jung's concept of integration, but have you integrated your own shadow? You can quote Schopenhauer on suffering, but do you truly engage with your own? This intellectual armor protects you from the messy, imperfect business of actually living. It gives you the illusion of progress while keeping you perfectly still. And worst of all, it gives you a convenient excuse for your stagnation. I'm too deep for this shallow world. No one understands my potential. According to Lacan, we're all caught in what he calls the symbolic order, the structure of language, social norms, and expectations that shape our reality. You think you've rejected society's values, that you're somehow outside the system. But your very rejection is a position within that system. Your identity as the intelligent outsider is just another social role, one that conveniently shields you from taking actual risks. This is the real danger of the desire trap, believing you're exceptional while using that belief to justify inaction. The influencers you mock, the normies you disdain, at least they're creating something. At least they're participating in life rather than just critiquing it from the sidelines. Lacan's insight here is profound. The symbolic order isn't just something external that constrains us, it constitutes us. Your thoughts, your desires, even your most private fantasies are structured by language and social meaning that preceded your existence. This doesn't mean you have no agency, but it does mean that true agency comes from recognizing how you're positioned within these structures, not pretending you exist outside them. Let's be honest about a fantasy that many intellectually minded men harbor, the fantasy of finally being recognized, of someone, a mentor, a partner, society at large, finally seeing your true worth and elevating you to your rightful place. It's the Good Will Hunting fantasy, the janitor whose mathematical genius is discovered, the diamond in the rough who just needs the right person to see his brilliance. Lacan would call this the fantasy of the big other, the imagined entity that could validate your existence, confirm your worth, and resolve your internal conflicts. But here's the harsh truth: this fantasy keeps you passive, waiting to be discovered rather than proving your worth through action. It keeps you rehearsing imaginary conversations where you finally show everyone how brilliant you are, instead of creating work that speaks for itself. And deeper still, it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about desire. Because what happens if you actually receive this recognition? The fantasy collapses and a new desire emerges. The recognition is never enough. Lacan described the real as what exists outside symbolization, the raw, unfiltered truth that we spend our lives avoiding. Here's your real: you are afraid. Not of failure, but of discovering that you're exactly what you fear most: ordinary. Your intellectual pursuits, your philosophical musings, they're not evidence of your depth. They're sophisticated defense mechanisms, ways to avoid confronting the fundamental lack at your core. This lack isn't a flaw to be fixed. It's the essential condition of being human. We are all incomplete. We all desire. We all seek outside ourselves for what we think will make us whole. The trap isn't in having desires. The trap is in believing that fulfilling those desires will complete you, will finally make you the person you're meant to be. But completion never comes. There is always another desire, another goal, another reason to postpone actually living. Facing the real means confronting this lack directly, not trying to fill it, but accepting it as the very condition that makes desire, creativity, and growth possible. The void within you isn't your enemy. It's the space from which authentic action can emerge. Lacan introduced a concept that's particularly relevant to men caught in intellectual traps: jouissance. It's a French term that means enjoyment, but not in the simple sense of pleasure. It's a kind of painful pleasure, an excess that goes beyond mere satisfaction. Think about how you sometimes enjoy your own dissatisfaction. There's a certain pleasure in complaining about how no one recognizes your potential, isn't there? A comfort in positioning yourself as the misunderstood genius? This is jouissance, the paradoxical enjoyment you derive from your own discontent. It explains why people often cling to their suffering even as they claim to want freedom from it. You say you want success, recognition, fulfillment. But there's a part of you that enjoys the position of the thwarted hero, the man of unrealized potential. It gives you an identity. It protects you from the anxiety of actually testing your capabilities in the real world. Lacan would tell you that breaking free from the desire trap means giving up this jouissance, sacrificing the comfortable pain of unfulfilled potential for the terrifying freedom of actual becoming. Another crucial Lacanian concept for understanding your predicament is what he calls the name of the Father. This isn't about your actual father, but rather the principle of authority and prohibition that structures your relationship with desire. Many intellectually minded men have a complicated relationship with authority. You might rebel against conventional power structures while simultaneously craving validation from intellectual authorities, whether that's academic institutions, thought leaders, or even historical figures like Nietzsche or Marcus Aurelius. This ambivalence toward authority creates a double bind. You reject the conventional paths to recognition while still desperately wanting recognition itself. You dismiss societal definitions of success but haven't truly created your own. Lacan would suggest that true freedom doesn't come from rejecting all authority, but from consciously choosing which symbolic structures you'll operate within, understanding their limitations, and finding your authentic position in relation to them. This means neither blindly following conventional paths nor reactively rejecting them, but thoughtfully engaging with the world as it is while working to transform it. So how do you escape this trap? Lacan offers a counterintuitive answer: by traversing the fantasy, seeing through the illusions that structure your desire. This doesn't mean giving up on desires altogether. It means recognizing that what you truly desire isn't what you think you desire. The objects you chase, success, recognition, wealth, knowledge, are stand-ins for something else, the impossible fantasy of completeness. True freedom doesn't come from achieving some imaginary perfect state. It comes from accepting that such a state doesn't exist. This doesn't mean giving up on ambition. It means distinguishing between genuine goals and fantasies designed to protect your ego. Ask yourself, if no one would ever know about your accomplishments, would you still pursue them? If you could never describe yourself as intelligent, would you still seek knowledge? The path forward isn't about becoming exceptional. It's about becoming authentic. Stop waiting for some mythical moment when the world finally recognizes your brilliance. The world owes you nothing, and believing otherwise has cost you years of genuine growth. For Lacan, truly breaking free from your psychological prisons requires what he calls an act, a decisive intervention that transforms the very coordinates of your existence. An act isn't just any action. It's a move that changes the rules of the game you've been playing. It breaks with your previous patterns of desire and identity. This might mean finally starting that project you've been contemplating for years. It might mean speaking honestly when you've been hiding behind intellectual jargon. It might mean abandoning a career path that others admire but leaves you empty. What makes an act authentic isn't its external recognition but its relationship to your deepest truth. Not the idealized self-image you cling to, but the complex, contradictory reality of who you are. And here's the paradox. You can't know in advance what this authentic act should be. You can't calculate it or derive it from theory. You must leap into uncertainty without guarantees. This is precisely what you've been avoiding with your intellectual defenses, the anxiety of choice without perfect knowledge, of commitment without certainty of outcome. Breaking free from the desire trap doesn't mean the end of desire. Instead, it transforms how desire functions in your life. Lacan, following Freud, spoke about sublimation, the process of redirecting our fundamental drives towards socially valuable aims. Not suppressing desire, but channeling it creatively. When you're no longer caught in the cycle of chasing recognition for its own sake, you can direct your energies toward what genuinely matters to you. Your intellectual capabilities become tools for creation rather than weapons for defense or posturing. This is where your potential truly lies, not in being recognized as special, but in using whatever capacities you have to create something meaningful. Something that connects rather than separates. Something that contributes rather than merely criticizes. The men who've made lasting impacts on the world weren't those who merely thought about their potential greatness. They were those who directed their desires outward into concrete action, often without knowing whether they would succeed or be recognized in their lifetime. Look, I know this wasn't easy to hear. It's not supposed to be. The truth rarely is. But now you have a choice. You can close this video, dismiss what I've said as pessimistic nonsense, and return to the comfortable fiction of your deferred greatness. Or you can use this moment as what Lacan would call a point de capitan, a quilting point where meaning can be restructured, where new understanding can begin. Your potential is real. Your intelligence has value. But they mean nothing until they're actualized in the world through action, through creation, through genuine connection with others. Stop thinking about the life you deserve and start building the life that exists. Stop waiting for permission to be great and start practicing the mundane, difficult work of becoming good. The desire trap can only hold you if you let it. And today, right now, you have the opportunity to step out of it. Jacques Lacan didn't develop his theories so that they could remain abstract concepts discussed by intellectuals in ivory towers. He meant for them to illuminate the human condition and potentially transform it. So take what resonates from his insights and apply it to your life. Not as another intellectual exercise, but as a framework for authentic action. If something I've said has resonated with you, or even angered you, leave a comment below. Let's start a conversation about how we can all wake up from the comfortable fictions we've been living in. And remember, the life you're waiting for? It's waiting for you to start living it.